All right, our last part for this section of the text is to talk about arrays as return values. And again, the idea is that we're going to use the same exact pattern for array return types as we do for declaring the arrays. In other words, we'll have the type and then the square brackets. So if I go to the whiteboard here, again, if I wanted to create a method that returns an array of Booleans, say, then I would have my base data type Boolean, square brackets, that means that that's an array of Booleans, and then I would have the rest of my method signature. Okay? And so somewhere in here, this would create and then return a reference to an array of Booleans. And of course, that doesn't have to be a primitive type. It could be anything. So maybe I have something that creates an array of images. Then it would be the same thing. Somewhere in there, it would create and load up, fill this whole array of images, and then return that as the return value. Okay, so the pattern, again, is the same that we use when we're declaring the references, and the same when we pass them in as parameters, so that's nice. We just have to know that one pattern. The data type, square brackets, make it an array. Now let's take a look at this example from the text, listing 711, and this is a method that returns an array more fully fleshed out. So this is the method signature. Remember, your first line of your method is called the signature, and left to right we have the return type. So our return type is an array of floats. The name of the method is called create random array, and then it takes parameters. In this situation, what we're passing in are n, which is the size of the array to create, and then low and high, which will be the range of the random values that are put into the array to begin with. So now let's look at the guts of the method itself. We create the array, okay, and so this should be familiar to you right now. We're declaring the reference first, so float with two square brackets means that array, ARR, is an array of floats. Then we allocate it with the new keyword, put n values in there, and remember what are their initial values? Zeros, they're all set to 0. And now I use that pattern that we talked about for iterating through a loop. Use a for loop, starting out at location 0, continuing as long as I is less than the length of the array, incrementing by 1 at each iteration. Then I set the value at location I to a random number between low and high, and then return the array. And note that when I return it, there's no brackets involved there because I just send back the reference. Then this setup method illustrates how that method would be called. We call create random array, so it's going to make an array of 5 elements with values between 0 and 100, inclusive on the 0 part, exclusive on the 100, so it'll be between 0 and 99.999, and then it prints them out. All right? So we can use arrays as return types, we can use arrays as parameters, etc. in our methods. Our next section, this one is going to be fairly lengthy to read, but it will talk about the different types of things we want to do with arrays, like searching them and sorting them. Okay? And so that will be the next section, 7.3, and that'll be the next group of videos.